10 days, the prosecution finally ended its cross-examination of Kong Hee this afternoon. Deputy Public Prosecutor Christopher Ong ended by putting forth the prosecution's case that the Extron and Ferna bonds were sham investments used to pay for Sun Ho's music career. In addition, it is the prosecution's case that the bond subscription agreements were not arm's-length transactions, but that the defendants controlled the decision-making processes leading to the bond transactions. DPP Ong also accused Kong of lying to the CHC lawyers, auditors, CAD and to the court that these sham investments were genuine investments. It is also the prosecution's case that YU Hanafi never gave a verbal guarantee to underwrite the crossover project. Kong disagreed with all that Ong put to him, maintaining that the advice of lawyers and auditors had consistently been sought for the bond subscription agreements that were drafted by an experienced fund manager. No red flags had been raised despite the auditors having visibility of both the books of Extron and CHC. The directors of both Extron and Ferna were the ultimate decision makers on the bond drawdowns and were held liable for the transactions. Kong also told the court that even now, 4 years on, Hanafi was still shouldering the payments for the loans he had taken in order to make good his commitment to underwrite the album production expenses. Over the last 2 days, the court saw evidence implying a scramble of sorts by the defendants to fill up a multi-million-dollar deficit stemming from money that had been spent on the crossover project via the Extron and Ferna bonds. In order to pay off the Advance Rental License Agreement or ALA, which would in turn be used to redeem the bonds, YU Hanafi was asked to activate his personal guarantee. However, emails and BlackBerry messages presented by the prosecution implied that Kong and the other accused parties were not relying on Hanafi, but were instead attempting to plug the hole by securing loans from various sources. Ong put to Kong that Chu Eng Han had proposed solutions to the cash flow issues between CHC, Extron and Ferna because the defendants control all the decisions with regards to the bond transactions and the financing of the crossover album. Kong disagreed, maintaining that the team was involved in managing the cash flow issues because they were all trying to help Hanafi. The final decisions were still Hanafi's to make. Kong pointed out that Hanafi was not just a vehicle because he had signed a personal guarantee to underwrite the crossover. Ultimately, Hanafi had fulfilled his word in 2010 before the investigations began and the church made no losses. It is the prosecution's position that there was never really a personal guarantee from Hanafi. The DPP also submitted that Hanafi had never intended to independently support the crossover project using the Ferna bond proceeds, but that Ferna was only a vehicle for the money to be channeled through. The court had seen earlier in this trial that Kong, Chu and Tan Yiping had helped Hanafi source for loans to fulfill the obligations of his personal guarantee. Kong told the court that he had taken a cross-guarantee to support Hanafi and that he would have helped Hanafi even if there was no cross-guarantee because the crossover was our mission. Kong clarified that even as Hanafi kept his commitment, if we're able to help him out to lessen his burden, then we would want to do that too. It was a very sudden decision, and $30 million to be raised within a few months would be a huge financial burden for YU. So we just wanted to help, but at the end of the day, the sword will fall on YU, which in a sense it had. Ong then asked how the matter was eventually resolved. Pending the sales proceeds expected from the upcoming launch of the album, Kong explained that the hole was filled by Hanafi making good his commitment to underwrite the crossover project. The businessman achieved this by taking loans from banks and personal friends. To this day, 4 years on, Hanafi is still paying off the loans he had taken from various individuals. The prosecutor noted that the money that CHC paid to Extron for the ALA was used to redeem the Extron and Ferna bonds. There was a need to speed up the redemption of the bonds during that period, which followed CHC's announcement that it had procured Suntec Singapore for its new worship location. This announcement had attracted criticism and rumours on the internet regarding the Suntec deal and Extron's involvement with the crossover, which could in turn garner unnecessary attention from the authorities. Kong did not want the church members to be distracted by rumours that Extron was siphoning money out of the church for Kong's personal use. He also wanted to protect the crossover mission. The prosecutor asked Kong why there was a fear of the authorities paying attention to the transactions when the defendants had been conscientious and diligent in constantly checking with auditors and lawyers and ensuring that they are commercially justifiable. Kong replied, "Your Honour, we were also very conscientious and diligent when we went about the Suntec deal. But after we made the announcement, we were also called in by and had meetings with URA and COC. So Kah Wing just wanted to pay off the ALA so as to prevent any misunderstanding or misperception that something was amiss. Kong's lawyer Edwin Tong began re-examination of Kong this afternoon. He sought to establish that in relation to the Extron bonds, auditor Fung Dao Cheng and his audit firm had visibility of both the books of Extron at CHC. In the books of the church, the auditors would be aware that building funds were used to make investments, and Extron's accounts would in turn reflect the proceeds of the bonds being used for the crossover project. Fung would also have been very aware of Kong's role as the liaison person with the Americans in the US album production. It will also have been clear to the auditors that co-defendant Serena Wee was CHC's accountant and yet handling Extron's accounts before the Extron bonds in 2007. The auditors had not raised any issues with this arrangement. Re-examination of Kong will continue tomorrow. For more information, log on to citynews.sg. I'm Sandy Yeo, City News, Singapore.